Chapter 8 deals with the nervous system. There is a lot of processes that occur within us, but we're not going to go through all of them, and I'm not going to go through the names and parts of the brain, what do they do and why and how, because it's not the scope of our book. I'm just going to try and explain the basic theory with a metaphor or an example. The nervous system coordinates all activities of our body. We take information in through our senses. We see things, we hear things, we smell, we taste, we feel, and that information is translated and we have a reaction. There are many systems that work simultaneously to be able to do that. To me, to be able to talk and breathe and sit at the same time is a very complex process, of course, but my brain is dealing with all of that at the same time. So a lot of it is happening unconsciously. So if I say, do I feel blood flow in my cheek? No, I don't, but it's still happening. My heart's still pounding. I have no control over this. Okay, if I might meditate for 1,000 years, then I might be able to delay my breathing for a longer time. Or if I train, I can stay underwater for a longer time, but eventually that stops somewhere. But all of this happens automatically. So we have in the processes of when there is danger, our brain says, watch out, and it takes over and activates, and we call that sympathetic nervous system. So if I need to run away from the tiger, I need to take in oxygen, so my coordination of my muscles and the intake of the energy and my organs that have to work in a certain way, all happens automatically. That's the automatic part. Nobody's asking me, should I move my hand? Which muscle should I move first? So this bit is automatic. I breathe, I talk, I move. It's all automatic. And then there's a bit that says, watch out, there's a tiger running after you, so I have to run away. That's a danger bit. That's called the sympathetic nervous system. And then there's a bit that says, the tiger's gone, now we can relax, and that's a parasympathetic nervous system. So with all these systems work simultaneously if needed. The parasympathetic system is the biological button on and off, rest or unrest story. Yeah? So the parasympathetic system tells us to rest, to relax. The funny bit is that if the oxygen intake and the carbon dioxide out exhaling carbon dioxide and the intake of oxygen is in a certain ratio, then our parasympathetic system goes on. And that's why, that might be one of the explanations of why meditation works. Or people who smoke, they say, if I smoke a cigarette, I become I feel relaxed. It's because the deep breathing causes for the right amount of oxygen to come in and the right amount of carbon dioxide to go out, which activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which says, relax, no danger. So, parasympathetic nervous system is what we want activated the whole time, as much as possible. And sympathetic system, we want to understand and deactivate. That is the goal of this book, of course. A metaphor would be, you have a driver, you have a car, and you have the road. So, the car is okay, the road is okay, but if the driver doesn't know how to deal with the car, then there'll be problems. So being able to deal with stress means being able to use the car to its fullest without any problems. Okay? One more thing. A lot of times people say psychological issues are mental, they're in a straight realm, they're not real, or they're far, far away land. It's not like that. If we look at a state, psychological state, emotion, we feel in a certain way because we're going to go backwards, by the way. So we feel some emotion. The reason why we feel some emotion is because we think in a certain way. And we think in a certain way is because we've been brainwashed all our lives to think in a certain way. And this is a book. I've been brainwashed or taught, whatever you want to call it, all my life that everything that looks like this is a book. So when I feel a certain emotion, it's because I think in a certain way. What I think has to do with my lifelong experiences, right? And how does that occur? That occurs because certain parts of the brain work together and say, this is what it is. And if we look at those parts, then they're made up of little cells. Billions of cells together make that up. So that emotion eventually is physical. So psychology is physical. It's just not, you can't grasp it, and that's why it feels so far, far away. But basically, feeling has to do with what my brain is saying, and the brain is doing that because the electrochemical processes of the cells are saying that. Okay? Read the chapter if necessary. There are the details. It's a little bit complex, but it's interesting. Do the homework, and we'll see you next week.